Joe Camerota here. In recent years, as a lot of you know that are watching this, when I was 13 years old, my dad's sister Teresa falsely accused me of molesting her son, Michael. In recent years, I've taken it upon myself to gather as much of the material, the paperwork surrounding that time. And on Wednesday, I got more paperwork from my mother surrounding the case against the Trombetas that we started to file, and just everything around that time. And years ago, I had asked to see some of the paperwork, and I'd started to go through it, and I just had a mental breakdown while reading it. And I got some more of the paperwork on Wednesday, and I already had a bunch, and I said to myself, I have to do this. I just have to sit down and read through this paperwork. And I locked myself in a room on Wednesday and Thursday, and I just read through all of the paperwork. Now, there's a few important things here. One, and this is something that was never talked about in my family, I learned it through this paperwork, which is that not only did Teresa falsely accuse me of molesting her son, but also she falsely accused me of molesting Hannah, my sister, at the same time. So she made a false accusation that I molested little Michael and my sister Hannah at the same time in the same location. Now, I didn't do that, obviously, and so that's easy to prove. Hannah can just say, hey, Joe didn't do that. It's such an easy thing to prove. Now, at the time, Hannah was very young, and so she wouldn't have even known the things that were being talked about. She wouldn't have even known the concepts. So I get why they didn't involve her back then. But my parents could have easily said to the courts, hey, let's put a pause on this. Let's put a timeout on this. And we'll circle back years later when Hannah is older. And this is it's easy to prove our son's innocence. Hannah will just validate it years from now when she can have an adult conversation. She'll validate Joe's innocence. Also, I passed a lie detector test. Also, there was tons of inconsistencies in the things that Trombetta said. And so there was all these reasons to pursue my innocence till the end. And my father didn't. They started to prepare to sue Teresa, and then Teresa sued back, and then it stopped. Now, one thing that's important is Teresa got pregnant during this time. She got pregnant with her son Luke, I guess. And my parents put the pause on going after my innocence because she got pregnant. And then after the pregnancy, after she gave birth to Luke, they then started back up again going after my innocence. And Teresa then countersued, and she sued saying that she had complications during her pregnancy because of the stress. Now, here's the thing, Teresa, you falsely accused me of being a child molester. Any stress that Teresa got put under was her own doing. Clearly, that's her own doing. I still deserve my innocence. Now, through the years, I've asked my father, why didn't you pursue my innocence more? And he always said that his lawyer recommended that he didn't because Teresa countersued for complications during her pregnancy, and her son Luke, I guess, from what my father said, was born with some disabilities. And I don't know what those are, but I guess my father always maintained that because Luke happened to be born with disabilities and she sued me claiming trauma during her pregnancy, psychological trauma during her pregnancy, my lawyer said to drop the case. This is what my father had said, and that's not a good reason. My father still should have pursued my innocence, but he claims he dropped the case for that reason. Now, that excuse never sat right with me. And I was reading through the paperwork, and I read through the draft of our complaint. I read through Teresa's complaint about how, she felt she was harassed during her pregnancy. And I'm reading through all of this, and I'm reading through all the paperwork, and I start to notice something. I start to notice something very interesting. All these people are asking this question on my behalf, and it would have been on my behalf too. The question that they're asking, these are people in extended family members, DCF, the police, Teresa and Mike Trombetta even, their lawyer, and even our lawyer asked this question. The question was, has Joseph seen a therapist? Can we get the name of the therapist that Joseph has seen? And here's the thing is, my parents never took me to see a therapist. Never once did my parents take me to see a therapist. Now, throughout the years, I wrote it off as my mom was very right-wing religious and she didn't believe in therapy, and so that's why I didn't go to see a therapist. I wrote it off as that. And even yesterday when I called my father after I finished reading this paperwork and I asked him, why didn't I go to see a therapist? He said, well, your mother didn't believe in that. He was very quick to say that. And I always wrote it off as that in my head. But that's not the truth. You see, the Trombetta's lawyer sent a letter to our lawyer and to my mother and father asking if I had seen a therapist because they wanted to talk to the therapist because they were concerned about my mental health because of a hallucination of St. Michael the Archangel that my family had had. Now here's the thing. My family, and it said in the paperwork, this hallucination happened circa 1995, 1996. Now here's the thing is, my family did have this hallucination of St. Michael the Archangel, but I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I was asleep. I was asleep and my father was asleep. The people who were there were my mother, Stephen Jr., Samuel, Hannah, I believe, probably, and I think Sarah too. But I wasn't there. I wasn't there during this hallucination. But they wanted to talk to my therapist because they wanted to inquire about my mental health because of those hallucinations. Now, if my parents had taken me to see a therapist, the therapist would have asked me, hey, what's up with these St. Michael the Archangel visions? What's up with these hallucinations? And I would have said to the therapist, oh, I wasn't there. I was a kid at the time, so I would have said to the therapist, I wasn't there. I believe my mom and my brothers, but I wasn't there. I was asleep. And the therapist would have said, oh, this guy doesn't have mental health problems. He wasn't there. And the therapist would have asked, who is there? Who was there? And I would have said, Stephen, Sam, Hannah, Sarah, my mom, I believe. And the mental health question would have gotten taken off of me and would have gotten focused on them. And probably it would have gone to Stephen Jr. next. And obviously no one in my family did anything wrong. Hannah, like we talked about earlier, Hannah can attest to that. But my father saw that and realized that if he pushed forward, this hallucination of St. Michael the Archangel would become a matter of public record, and my other siblings' mental health would be scrutinized. Not mine, but my other siblings. And so my father made the choice to scapegoat me for them. And my father just swept the whole thing under the rug and ended it all. That's bad. That's messed up. That's terrible. I'm definitely going to see a lawyer about this for sure. And I'll tell you, man, it sucks being the scapegoat of the Camerota family. And I've been the scapegoat for many, many, many people.